Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Shirley with Spirit of Matter again. And this is Venus Day, Mars Hour. But I want to talk about the Venus Uranus synodic cycle. And right now we have the opening square of this cycle, which means there's a certain crisis of creation. The square with Venus Uranus is crisis of creation. Venus is in Leo, and and the sun is present, is at home. So there's a very strong Venus actually, but she's squaring Uranus that is ruled by Venus. So there's a little bit of crisis of creation. I see it more as a threshold of something creative to burst out of you. And this is way more than to break away, to break free, yes, but here's more like something creative, sun, performative, shine, your shine, to break out of you, to break free, but it can be from a place of kind of inner place where something Venusian has been happening in your life, and now it's out in the open. And this could be your voice, could be art, could be something that is a creative project for you that is popping up. And this is a crisis of creation because with Uranus, it just happened. So you could be having kind of mixed feelings, not mixed feelings, but awkward feelings, especially awkward feelings. With this one, it's something that needs to come out, to the air. So you're on air, you're visible, your voice is visible, your shine is visible, and this is more the way I see for this. It is true that we are in Mercury shade, and the Venus has begun its cycle conjuncting Uranus very close to Algol, actually, in the fifth lunar mansion of Taurus. And now she's past her Gemini Venus point, talking tropically. So her new cycle, new Venus point that she has in Gemini, where she conjuncted the sun, okay, this was ruled by Mercury, and now she's in Leo, triggering, kind of going back and forth, triggering that other Venus point, triggering the time when Venus was retrograde in Leo, triggering the many topics we had from Me Too to Barbie to famous divorces, but also coupling and uncoupling, and creative projects, royal family scandals, okay, and so on. But here I feel there's something more warm, more lighthearted, because Venus is in a fire sign. Venus in Leo is strong. As Cressida Tassio said, Venus has dignity in Leo. She is depicted sitting on a lion, so taming the lion. And this is where our open-heartedness and vulnerability, Leo, Sun, connects with expression, connecting to people, love language, Venus, but also finances, good looks, sensual pleasure, royalty in love, okay? With all the good depictions of that. So there's something breaking free from any, how do I say that, insecurities that we have around our shine, around expressing ourselves. And there is an it just happened facet to it. It is more crisis in the sense that we need to adjust our confidence to new levels of success, is the way I see it. We need to adjust ourselves to the fact that we're successful. Okay, because in Leo we shine, wherever that is. And this is also an opening square. So there might be refinement to do with technology, Mercury, contracts, words, phrases, how we phrase things, a framework, the framing of things, there might be still under construction. It's important to keep flexible, especially if for you it's a new relationship that begins or culminates. Okay, Uranus is also associated with divorce, and I had a more heavy video about this, but I want to go to the brighter, lighter Uranus, which is appropriate right now, and remind ourselves that we are at a time where we should keep things flexible, whether it's our contracts, our decisions, here or there. This is a really time to allow things to be and break free of our constraints. Do creatively what we came here to do creatively. If this is affair related, because Venus square Uranus is so associated with the it just happened affairs, I want to remind us that Venus is about win-win. Okay, she's not about winning over, she's not about oppressing. Uranus in Algol can be associated with all types of magics done, so ethical and not ethical. It's very important, set intention at least not to be tempted to not ethical magic, especially if you're doing like love spells. Okay, don't do love spells for a specific person. Do love spells for the essence of desire, which is again bringing back the themes of Venus retrograde in Leo that we had last year, I think. And so the essence of desire spells are going to work on perfectly to purify your desires, so you're not caught up in drama so much, and you allow for the creative thing inside yourself to come out with, while being flexible about what type or level of commitment you want in this endeavor, if it is relationship related. Okay, as with Algol, don't lose your head over this, but also don't be tempted to, if you're on the side where like this is your partner and so on, I remind you of Andromeda. Andromeda is a great talisman, great talismanic work of Christopher Warnock that I saw regarding Andromeda, and it's very good for reconciliation and getting over if you are on the side of like, you know, the partner had some action and you didn't. So this is very good for to call on Andromeda. What you want to at least set intention not to be tempted to do is anything unethical around this, okay? Because with Algol, no, okay? She's not having it, okay? But more so, there is when you tend to the essence of desire, you will manifest for what you actually want in the situation. And now it is time to purify for those desires, to break free from constraints regarding what your essence of desire is. You want to shine, or you want to have level of fame that you can also be supported in. We want to be creative. We want to be desired in some way. We want to be more luxuriously desired. Okay, Venus in Leo is more like kind of like the royal star, or open-hearted, open desire. Okay, is also, yes, it's a fixed sign. Also the drama around this. Okay, this is a very dramatic, is where people maybe you have been shy about your desires of what you want in romantic life, but also if you have something creative within you, a spark of creativity, this is better to hone in what is my essence of desire showing me than to get caught up on themes or mindsets that depict Algol as betrayal, because it's not about this so much as about being true to yourselves. This is a reminder. Venuranus here, square, is coming from Leo with the sun in Leo. This is totally giving creative project or your relationship with fame. Okay, you want to be visible, you want to be famous, and so you might get caught up with such a thing. Let's say you're a lower profile person and you have a desire to shine in you, then let's say you're married, okay, so you can get caught up with something that is suddenly very visible. You can understand the the drama and the crisis when that happens. Or alternatively, you call to go to the spotlight and there is some creative things that you need to do. So you're seen, but there's something in you that wants to be seen even more, and somebody brings that from you. You will have a surge of what we call Kundalini energy, not the way of Mama versus Mafia depicts, okay, not the Memento Mori Kundalini energy, but I'm talking about an actual genuine desire that can express itself as erotic desire, but underneath is just this issue, okay? There's something creative that comes out of you with this relational crisis. This is why we want to be open for remediation and open or for flexibility, and set intention to open to look at things from a new point of view. Okay, it's not a thing to tend to, or even if you have insecurity, this can be a great time to heal for that insecurity. Okay, to remediate the solar energy. Regulus, okay, there's the sphere and sundry Regulus talisman that comes up, which I think can be very benefic, calling on its energy right now as I see it. I can say about myself, I'm tending to topics that nobody tends to on that level, with all these many connections between these topics. And I do have an inner desire to be like more visible or go viral or like have more shine and glance or whatever. And then it's like, but I don't want to sacrifice what I have to say. I don't want to sacrifice my voice for fame, but I also don't want to sacrifice my a joy of being seen, which is what people refer to as fame, as joy of being seen and celebrated either. And there's a dissonance within that now this Venuranus is kind of spiking up. Hey, I want to be protected. Maybe I want to be more visible, but not to sacrifice my voice, okay? But to make sure they can have that and that. So that can meet certain energies on certain levels, and there can be certain relational crises, certain things sparked up from this that touch on creative desires. Okay, even when I do water expense upon cooling, there's so many things I can address when I'm a shadow banned YouTube account where maybe 10 people watch an episode, whereas if it was, full blown like 1 million people, I would have to deal with that. And there's a desire to find not a disbalance, but not to have to sacrifice, not to have to be shadow banned, not to have to fear for my life for saying things that need to be said. Okay, that's like, okay. And there is also the glow of whistleblowing. Okay, the whole glorification of the shadow ban, which is like, I'm telling the truth. Everybody doesn't want to hear that. Look at me. Okay, which is another form of, it's not only a form of complex, it's kind of like, it's very true, but we also want to break that dissonance because we want to break through to logic cross, if only like to make it a change that we actually come here to make. And there are, of course, fatalities associated with that we don't want. And then there's, of course, like always say something dangerous, our life is in danger. And so this is also a time to allow for all these things to be around content creation, performances, voices, albums, many new things that are beginning, and to allow for the essence of our desires. Okay, many have been on the whistleblowing path and we like neglected our fame path, or the other way around. Okay, the whistleblowing aspect of us is there, and it wants out. It wants to let itself out. It wants to let itself be seen and yet stay alive. And yet it's like, are you really going all that far if it's not dangerous? And all these, things that we think about, like wanting love, son, wanting to be parents, okay, especially like solar figures, or, doesn't have to be father, it can be mother. But it can also touch on that, or wanting to have families, and wanting to have a private life, and so on, that can come up with all of these complexes. This is just the opening square. Okay, we're going to have a trine when Venus is in Virgo. We're going to have an opposition when Venus is in the end of Scorpio. We're going to have a closing trine when Venus is in the end of Capricorn, and we're going to have a closing square with Venus at the end of Aquarius. So we're just in the beginning of the road, just the first square, just the first crisis. The more we allow ourselves to tend to come to the surface without making distinct commitment, or you can understand it's not exactly the marriages type, it is the break-in free type, it's not necessarily also the divorce type. Okay, I have to admit, there's so many things open up for revision. With Uranus on Algol, again, use this aspect to release your psyche from constraints, to release your sexual energy from the cult. Right, so, okay? Decultify your sexuality. You'll have better sex, believe me. And so, this is a great aspect to do these things. It's not a great aspect to marry or to divorce, okay? It's not a good aspect to make magic that is for to limit or constrain the other person. Okay, you want to think about liberate yourself rather than anything not on these lines. You're like, yes, we're all humans, but it's kind of like, not with alcohol. Not with alcohol. Okay, you're gonna have the Eurekas, the new revision. Remember, you also have Uranus transits. If you're on the side, it's like, I get no action right now, and so on, and there's drama happening, but I'm not caught up in it. So you could be at the side of the popcorn, okay? And also remember, you also have Uranus transits. This is so important to see the bigger picture here, because it's an outer planet. It's not a personal planet. It's not a transit. It's not going to have like long-term effect. It's bringing in things from the Venus retrograde, from even Rahu in Leo, okay, from the Barbie times. I actually saw an article about someone who saw Barbie, like the Israeli Barbie and so on, like all these topics, and even like something royal, fame related, all of those things, and scandals. But it's absolutely not final. I know we are approaching the new moon, so now it's like culmination. It's absolutely not final, and you can think, oh, I understand it, I get it now, and then it's going to be another touch of that, and you're going to say the exact opposite. Okay, that's Uranus being Uranus and Venus-Uranus square. You could have a sudden, oh my God, sparks and lightning and so on, and it can go away just as it started, or it can reignite just as it went away. Okay, if you have these squares in your own relations, if it's long-term relations, you probably know that. So you want to pay attention to the Uranus-Venus transits and to the Uranus-Venus synodic cycle. The overall themes with this cycle, I have to admit, are deep. It started with Uranus on Algol, with Venus conjuncting Uranus, together with Jupiter actually, on Algol. Okay? You want to watch the separate videos on Medusa, Gorgon, Beta Persei, Algol, to understand what is this about. And then it continued on with Venus to her conjunct Sun, okay, the Venus Cazimi on her midpoint in Gemini, which was not an easy one. Okay? It's now happening within the shade of Mercury in Leo, which is also associated with the Sun, and we're going to have another Venus Cazimi soon. Okay, the Sun is going to approach Venus again, which is another thing coming up with Venus cycle. And this is, okay, now Venus was sextiling Uranus from 26 degrees Cancer, which was Procyon. But then she was applying to oppose Pluto. Really heavy Venus stuff. All things relational, money and sex and relations and the marriage and rebellion and energy, and occult and cults and energies and spirit and the matter. All of these heavyweight stuff. But now a little bit lighter, you get to meet it from a little bit lighter point. It is a Venus cycle that is not to be underestimated, and it's going to liberate us from a lot of constraints coming from anything that is outdated or archaic. Look at Algol. If you look at Algol as the head of Satan, you're like, I wish for you this comes in a trine, okay? I wish for you it comes in a sextile, because it's a complete crisis of existence. But if you look at Algol, it's just like this wealth talisman. It's like, yeah, if you honor willing consent and stuff, that's true. But all these digital coins with Algol point, or, I talked about the X.com launch, well, while they have freedom of speech not to reach, this is funny. This is playing out weird. But then, if you are honoring Algol, you could have great advancement. If you all have only been doing shadow work with Algol, then right now you might get to do, it's also a wealth talisman. Okay? Uranus is astrology. Venus is ruling that conjunction. If you've only been receiving like psychic attack and targeted individual, all that regarding your sexual energy or your energy in general, you might be getting a little bit of, those tantric things can also happen. That's also happening with Uranus. It's not just affairs and divorces and the breakups and crises. It's also that creative projects that you did. It's also that suddenly shining your light. It's also being more authentic and less planned, okay? Less constricted. It's also maybe studying astrology and incorporating that into your life, okay? It's also letting loose. It's also learning to laugh at yourself a bit, and so on. So that's, again, very, very liberating cycle. It doesn't mean that it's an easy cycle. There's depth to go through. So it's just the opening square. It also means that the things that need to open up right now are opening up, whether it's to open up again or from a different perspective. Okay, all that Me Too stuff, all that Barbie scandal. I even saw like things like blue pill, red pill stuff, political stuff, leadership stuff. That might happen. But it's just the opening square. So I predict for now it will be the most awkward or challenging or stirring up things, because this is the first time you deal with this shaking up things from a square point of view. What you haven't dealt with in the conjunction now comes up here, and you might also have the detachment of Uranus, which allows us to look at our vulnerabilities, Leo, from a more airy and light-hearted perspective, that allow us to touch things that maybe would have been very dramatic, very deep, very, kind of like we want to swipe it under the rug, we want to have the perfect image, or we don't want to show vulnerability, or we want to wear our heart on our sleeve, and sometimes like, hey, but I'm not yet comfortable with that. And so those things can also appear in your life or reappear in your life, and we are only opening the square. So I believe this is the first, after the conjunction, is the first touch that is kind of like the most stirring up, because something now is birthed. It's a threshold of birthing. Okay. For me, it was like, yes, water expands upon cooling is going to have a second season. Anybody getting mad by that is green flag for me to do it. Okay. And this is like the threshold. Again, the threshold of birthing. But it's the first threshold. There are going to be refinement. There are going to be more things to tackle. There are going to be, and then there's going to be the refinement of releasing things from this cycle that we no longer need or no longer serve, which is going to happen later this year and the next year. Okay. The fact that this Venuranus cycle, like the previous one, starts with Uranus in Taurus, gives it an extra Venus flavor. But Venus started here when she is strong. She was invisible. She was in the Resh Kigal phase. where she's not so much materializing outside, like with money and possessions, but more with wisdom and protection and shielding, which is appropriate for Venus and Uranus being our goal. So heavy topics, but you are shielded and protected when addressing those. And it is essentially about lightening up from things that are heavyweight, that we have been carrying for so long. So I'm not going to underestimate the things that are being touched on, but I'm also not going to overestimate the challenges here, because Uranus is the water breaks and the baby is born. Okay, and that baby can be creative project, that baby can be actual baby, a new way of branding yourself. Okay, Venus, Leo are known for rebranding ourselves. I had to hold on a joke about it because I have a Facebook friend who, I don't know if they're Wagner fan or not, but in their military unit, they needed somebody to do the design for the, don't laugh, for the branding for the unit. And I really wanted to say, could we like abolish the branding, meaning the expandable children branding habits? And I was like, I'm holding myself because I don't know if it's Wagner fund and so on. It's like I'm holding the fire, and this is so true for Leo. We are holding the fire. It's a fixed sign of holding the fire, and the use of the fire is to shed light and to inspire, and not to be like nitpicky over something that's not going to change the reality of a lot of people. But rather to save that light, and so on. So that's Venus Day, and it's interesting happening on a Mars hour, which is Mars in Gemini. So it's extra controversial, it's extra juicy, but it's also extra decisive. It's like, I'm going to say that even if that changes, I'm going to allow that threshold to build and to be, even if that sparks some, conflicting reactions. It's like other people getting mad that we shine is their problem, okay? And no one has the right to dim our shine, and no one has the right to finesse our vulnerabilities, and so on and so forth. So, and this is going to take on a conflicting view of Venus, because Leo view Venus with a more visible, fixed sign, a royal commitment, but here Venus is kind of like that princess that divorced, I don't know, was it Dubai king or something, by Instagram post. So it's kind of like epic, awkward, but also releasing. And releasing from certain loyalties that are so visible and so constraining, but so archaic and so outdated. But we also don't want to get all that way towards burning bridges, because we have another entire Venus-Uranus cycle to go. So it's not the final cut, it's not the final edit, it's not the most refined thing, but it's also not to be taken down, not to be oppressed or repressed. Venuranus is not going to allow herself to do it. Urano-Algol, definitely not. Venu-Urano-Algol, absolutely not. When she trines Aries, are you fucking kidding us? Okay? That is the mood to go, and the trine to Aries is, and to Andromeda constellation, is appropriate to be inclusive, to reconcile these voices that we have pushed away from the discourse, but it's also to reconcile our own voices. Okay, if we've been allowing ourselves to go unnoticed, to go shadowbanned, to get the glory of being the pushed away voice, then there's a chance to heal this heartbreak, and refine our messages, and become more visible. And also, if we've been sacrificing the pushed away voices for the sake of have a message that you can deliver to millions of people, we might have an inner rebel that's like, nah. Okay, so it's going to be very exciting also when we have mass media performances, because there's going to be a lot of, nah, I'm not going to say the politically correct thing, Nah, I'm not going to conform, and that's going to be excellent. You want to hone in on that, because this is, you can do it way, 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 way deeper than other Uranus placements or other Venus placements. This is all the way I'll go. It's all the way I'll go. So let yourself be controversial. You can call in Archangel Michael for like the Mars Aldebaran that we are having. And again, that way it won't be a hybris winning, but an actual fulfilling win, and greater authenticity is coming out of this transit. So I'm excited to see what is going to come up at this time. Please, please, please set intention. If you're the type of person who has slips when it comes to use astrological magic or magic in general, Uranus is on algo. Okay? It's not the time to slip. Okay? So set intention here to get at your essence of desire and manifest your essence of desire. If you're feeling vengeful, which can come up, okay? It is like the vulnerable heart, and with any with Chiron wounds and so on. What I would advise to you is, what is the change underneath the vengeance? What the change underneath the vengeance is. Set intention to get at the essence of your desire. And usually, if you're feeling like particularly vengeful, usually all you want is like relation, a good orgasm, I don't know, a creative project is successful, being seen and heard, and also being allowed to be a bit controversial or a lot controversial, and being accepted as you are. Like, it's usually not that bad. And so being able to be radiant and confident, or vulnerable, and being approved and validated and accepted, and all of that, like, it's really simple. When you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's really simple. And I so wish for you to get more of what you desire. And you do that by tending to it in such a great transit, to tend to the essence of desire and manifest it, rather than acting on the shadow. And just, you're not gonna block what's meant for you. It's going, you're gonna have a crisis where you are tending to what you desire. Even if, let's say somebody cheated on you and you're married, okay, and you do black magic there, you know how it can backfire, especially with Uranus is so lighthearted. Somebody's gonna have an affair with you, and you won't be able to resist them, okay? And now, instead of like you're suffering from backfire, it's kind of like, hey, lighten up. You also have Uranus transits, which I think is the best way for this to happen to you. But if you're intense, if you're tough on yourself, those can be the things. If it is around like ego issues, like performance issues, like this, like that, again, you could have suddenly a place where you are extra seen, and you face with all of these complexes that you didn't have to face when you weren't extra seen. So yes, that can come to the forefront, and very funny things can happen with that. Creative art, credit for your creation, okay? Really, really funny things can come up. The more you tend, if you set intention to tend to the essence of your desires and manifest and go there, so you will have an easier transit, a more joyous transit, and less getting stuck on that icky energy. Better for you. Okay, Venus win is a win-win. And Uranus has plenty of ways, unexpected ways to make it a win-win. Okay, so yeah, this is what I have to say. Have a great weekend. Enjoy this time. You're gonna buy some things that you might enjoy for the moment and then not look at after. And you might have relations, or you might enjoy the time, enjoy the moment, allow the things to unfold, and essentially you're very likely gonna come up with something that you're gonna be proud of, proud, Leo, when in the passage of time or the essence of the things, you're gonna be proud of yourselves. I tell you that you're gonna be proud of yourselves for what you did and for what you would have done some perhaps if it didn't just happen. So